My mother ruined every relationship I had because they echoed memories she tried to bury. So I reminded her therapist that age really is just a number. She's been recycling the same excuse since she hit 45. My father damaged her, so now she's entitled to prove she's still desirable to every man who crosses our threshold.
And I'm not talking about subtle flirtation at parent-teacher nights. I mean, she seduces, intentionally, repeatedly, every single boy I ever loved. The so-called trauma? My dad left her for Taylor, a 25-year-old from his office. But there's always a piece she conveniently forgets. He left after enduring years of physical abuse, bruised ribs, a black eye. The cops didn't care. He was a man, after all. And since she convinced him that I encouraged her violence, he cut off contact with both of us.
She never laid a hand on me, but what she did instead was almost worse. She kissed my boyfriends. It began freshman year. My friend Eli came over for a group project. She walked in wearing yoga pants and a push-up bra. Spent 5 minutes looking for her reading glasses, bent over in front of him the whole time. A week later, I caught them kissing in the kitchen. He was 15. She said I was overreacting. He reminded her of being young again. Then came Noah, my sophomore homecoming date. She volunteered at the dance last minute, spent the entire evening pulling him aside, asking if we needed drinks, food, anything. 2 weeks later, my best friend saw his car at our house while I was at soccer practice. I came home to find his Letterman jacket in her bedroom. She told him older women understood men better. We'd been dating 3 months. Every time I tried going to the local police, tiny town, small station, I showed them the text she sent to my underage exes, the photos they had sent her. Expected at least a warning. Instead, the cops laughed. Damn, if I were his age, I'd want her too. Apparently, it wasn't a crime if the boys were willing. By junior year, I learned to lie. No, Mom, I'm not seeing anyone. Meanwhile, I'd been dating Lucas for 6 months. Different schools, no social media crossover. I told him she was going through something, that we needed boundaries. One mistake. She found the prom corsage receipt in my car. A date! How exciting! I'll do your makeup. The night of prom, she insisted on taking pictures. Just a few with Mom. 45 minutes later, she was fixing Lucas's bow tie, touching his chest, complimenting his arms. When we finally tried to leave, she burst into tears. How she never had a real prom. How Dad didn't appreciate her beauty. Lucas gave her a polite hug. She didn't let go. I had to drag him out the door. He was shaken. That was intense. I get why you kept me away. He promised to block her. Swore he'd never fall for what the others did. I'm not just some high school guy. I can handle a desperate housewife. 2 days later, his best friend sent me a snap. Blurry shot of my mom at the McDonald's drive-thru, Lucas in the passenger seat. I called. No answer. I rushed home, let myself in. Found them on the living room couch. Half dressed, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. She was wearing my perfume. She looked up, tearful and soft-voiced. Honey, I'm so sorry. He just reminds me of how I used to feel, like someone wanted me again. Lucas couldn't even meet my eyes. He grabbed his shirt and left. Later, he texted that she'd been sending him pictures for days, that she knew what to say. He was sorry. He couldn't help it. But I wasn't crying anymore. It was her turn now. The problem was, I wasn't old enough to really strike back yet, so I played the long game. Fast forward 3 years. I was 19. She was still going to that sleazy therapist, Dr. Halverson, who validated everything she did. You need to give me grace while I heal was her personal gospel. But I liked one thing about that Dr. Halverson. Whenever she brought him over for her little energy cleansings with white sage and candles, I could feel his gaze crawl over me. Now I was legal, and I wanted her to understand, truly, what it felt like. I booked the appointment under a fake name, paid cash at the front desk while she was at her weekly salon visit. The receptionist didn't look up as she handed me the intake forms. My hands trembled slightly as I wrote out a fictional backstory, a daughter abandoned emotionally by her mother, mirroring everything I had actually lived.
Mom had been telling Dr. Kramer for years that his waiting room smelled like lavender and desperation. I watched other patients shuffle out of his office, eyes swollen, clutching tissues like lifelines. When it was finally my turn, Kramer opened the door himself, eyes scanning me with that trained therapist gaze, concern, calculation, before shifting into something else. His office was exactly what I expected. Leather chairs, framed degrees, a tissue box within arm's reach no matter where you sat. I settled into the designated patient seat, making sure my phone was angled just right in my pocket. "So, what brings you in today?" His voice was smooth, neutral, textbook therapy tone. I let my own voice catch, just slightly. "My mother," I said. "She's destroying my life." The words flowed out just as I'd rehearsed them during the drive over. "She's a narcissist who can't handle me being happy." Kramer leaned forward, notepad poised. I started feeding him lines straight out of her own vocabulary. Emotional terrorism, weaponized vulnerability, toxic enmeshment. With each buzzword, his pen moved faster. My phone vibrated. Mom, texting about dinner. I took it out, casually replying while keeping my eyes on him. The lock screen lit up, a photo of Mom and me from her birthday dinner last month. Kramer caught sight of it. His pen froze. "Is that your mother?" he asked, gesturing at my phone. I locked the screen quickly and let my expression soften, laced with hurt. "We have a complicated relationship. She insists on the family portraits, the smiling selfies, but behind closed doors." I trailed off, letting him fill in the silence with meaning. "Sometimes the most damaging relationships are the ones that should protect us the most," he said softly. His hand reached over, brushed mine for just a moment. "Given what you shared, I'd recommend we meet twice a week. This kind of trauma, what you're carrying, it needs consistent attention." The session ended with him walking me to the door, his hand resting on my shoulder for a second too long. "You're very brave for seeking help. Not everyone has that kind of strength." The second I got to my car, my phone rang. "Where are you?" Mom's voice snapped. "The library closes at 5 on Wednesdays." "Just leaving now," I lied smoothly. "Got caught up in research." "Well, hurry. Dr. Kramer canceled tonight's session, some emergency with a new client." Her tone was sharp, suspicious. At home, I found her in my room rummaging through my dresser drawers. She didn't even bother pretending. "What are you doing?" "I'm worried about you, sweetheart. You've been so secretive lately." She held up a coffee receipt, one near Kramer's office. "This place isn't near the library." "I met a study group there afterward." "Don't lie to me." She stepped closer. I caught a whiff of her perfume, the same one she wore the night with Adrian. And then she dropped the bomb. "I installed the tracking app on your phone, for your safety, of course." Her voice was syrupy sweet. "Imagine my surprise when it showed you nowhere near the library today." Panic set in. I'd need a burner phone, immediately. The next morning, she insisted on driving me. "I'll drop you off at the library myself. Can't have you getting distracted again." I had no choice. I played along. She parked and watched me walk through the front doors, waited until I disappeared inside. I wandered for 5 minutes, pretending to browse, then slipped out the back exit, caught the bus to Kramer's office. 20 minutes of anxiety and counting. I arrived flustered, late. "I'm so sorry," I gasped as the receptionist let me in. "No worries at all," she smiled. Dr. Kramer appeared with a glass of water, guiding me into his office with a palm against my lower back. Controlling parents often create these types of logistical obstacles. He sat closer this time, close enough that our knees nearly touched. Have you considered the possibility that your mother's behavior is escalating because she senses you slipping away? Meanwhile, Mom had uncovered the truth. She stormed into the library that afternoon, demanding security footage. The head librarian, an older woman who liked me, called to warn me. She saw you get on the bus. She knows where it goes. After the session, Kramer walked me out through the back. I don't usually do this, he said, as he led me to where his car was parked. But given your circumstances, maybe we should talk somewhere more private. Coffee, maybe. Somewhere we're not bound by the constraints of this office. His wedding ring was gone. That would be helpful, I said, knowing Mom was probably circling the neighborhood by now. She'd already started calling my friends. Alicia texted me. Your mom just called. Told her you mentioned therapy, but didn't say who.
The kind of text where she sounded unhinged. Dr. Kramer handed me his business card, but he'd written a personal number on the back. For emergencies, he said, or if you just need someone to talk to. I made it home before Mom did, but she was already waiting, lights off, sitting in the dark living room. Mascara streaked her cheeks. In her hands was my journal, the one I'd hidden under the mattress. "How could you write these things about me?" she whispered. Then louder, reading from the pages. Excerpts about her behavior with my boyfriends, her manipulations, her control. "After everything I've done for you? You mean like sleeping with every guy I've ever dated?" I snapped. "Your father abandoned us both. Do you know what that does to a woman's self-worth?" She stood up, stepping closer. "And now you're keeping secrets, sneaking around just like he did?" That same sickly scent hit me. My perfume, the one she wore the night with Adrian, stolen again. "I need to see Dr. Kramer more often," she announced suddenly. "He's the only one who understands what you're putting me through." 2 days later, she had an emergency session. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. "Kramer, your mother is very concerned about you. Perhaps we should coordinate our approaches to ensure you're getting consistent support. Would you be free for coffee Thursday?" I screenshotted everything. He was moving faster than I'd expected. But I'd made a mistake, left the burner phone receipt in my bathroom trash, too distracted by Kramer's message to hide it properly. The next morning, Mom cornered me in the kitchen, waving the crumpled receipt like evidence in a courtroom. "What is this?" "It's nothing." She lunged forward, grabbed my wrist, nails digging into skin. I jerked back, but her grip tightened. Something in her face shifted, from passive-aggressive manipulation to something closer to rage. "You're just like your father," she hissed. "Sneaking around, lying, making me look like I'm the crazy one." The bruise was already forming when she let go. Purple shadows under the skin. I snapped pictures from 3 angles, phone flash off. Urgent care was only 15 minutes away, but I needed to be careful. She'd retreated to her room, likely calling Kramer, telling her version of the events. At the clinic, the nurse examined my wrist with clinical calm. "How did this happen?" I gave her the story I'd practiced. I slipped, reaching for something on a high shelf, caught my hand wrong on the cabinet edge. She nodded slowly, but her eyes lingered on the fingerprint-shaped bruising. "These injuries are consistent with someone grabbing you," she said quietly, looking straight at me. "There are resources if you ever want help." I shook my head, stuck to the script. She documented everything, gave me care instructions, let me leave without pressing further. Now I had the record, if I needed it later. The next morning, Mom had transformed. Perfect mother mode. Pancakes on the table, my favorite. Fresh strawberries arranged in a heart. She wore a soft cardigan instead of her usual cleavage-revealing tops. Her makeup, subtle, maternal. "I made your favorite," she said with sugar in her voice. "We need to talk about yesterday. Dr. Kramer suggested a family session. He thinks it might help us repair our communication issues. I sat down slowly, bruised wrist hidden beneath the table. The pancakes tasted like strategy. But I ate, keeping up appearances, while she detailed Kramer's plan to heal our dysfunctional dynamic. The session was set for that afternoon. Mom drove us, filling the silence with carefully worded concern. Observations about how secretive I'd been, how worried she was, how Kramer understood us in a way no one else did. Kramer's office felt different this time, off balance. She positioned herself just right, close enough to appear engaged, but angled slightly to highlight her figure and the tight dress she'd changed into after breakfast. I recognized it. It was mine, taken from my closet that morning. "Thank you both for coming," Kramer began, professional mask perfectly in place. "Family dynamics can be challenging, especially when trust begins to erode." Mom launched into her act with practiced ease, talked about my detachment, my secrecy, my withdrawal from healthy bonds. Every now and then her hand touched her chest as she spoke, directing Kramer's gaze exactly where she wanted it. "She's been lying about where she goes," she said, her voice trembling, tears welling in the corners of her eyes.
"And I'm worried she might be forming inappropriate attachments to older men. It's a pattern I've noticed recently." Dr. Kramer's pen froze mid-stroke. His gaze flicked between us, trying to process the unexpected accusation. Mom's hand settled on the arm of her chair, fingertips tracing slow, deliberate circles on the leather. "That's quite a serious concern," he managed to say, his voice tight, the strain of balancing two conflicting narratives showing at the edges. "What makes you believe this might be happening?" She leaned forward just slightly, lowering her voice into that practiced, intimate hush. "She's been secretive about her relationships, hiding things from me. And the way she looks at certain men," she let the implication linger, her hand briefly brushing his desk as though seeking reassurance or simply drawing attention. I watched as Kramer's usual calm began to falter. His professional distance wavered. Mom kept talking, layering each word, each glance with practiced subtlety. Every movement calculated, casting me as unstable while pulling him deeper into her gravity. When she mentioned my obsession with unavailable men, her fingers grazed his arm for a moment. The session ended with Kramer suggesting we focus on individual therapy for now, before any more joint sessions. Her smile tightened at the dismissal, but she thanked him with exaggerated grace. Then, as we were packing up to leave, she made her move. "Dr. Kramer," she said sweetly, "I know this is a little unusual, but would you ever consider a home visit? Sometimes seeing our environment helps therapists get a full sense of the dynamic." Her hand played absently with the chain of her necklace. "I could cook. We could talk through treatment options in a more relaxed setting." Kramer hesitated, visibly torn, his clinical training wrestling with whatever it was she stirred in him. "That's not something I typically—" "For my daughter's sake," she interrupted, touching his hand briefly. "I'm at my wit's end." He agreed to consider it. As we left the office, I caught up to him in the parking lot before he reached his car. "We need to talk," I said quietly. "Not here, the coffee shop near your apartment." His cheeks flushed. "I don't think that would be appropriate." "Given what?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "That my mother is trying to seduce you? We both know what's going on." He glanced toward the car where Mom sat, watching through the windshield. "Thursday, 3 p.m., Brevity Coffee." He murmured, then walked away without looking back. Mom followed me home, her car tailing mine the entire drive. She cornered me the moment we stepped inside. "What were you two talking about out there?" "I just clarifying something about insurance," I lied without blinking. Her eyes scanned mine for cracks. "He's a good man, the only one who sees through your manipulations." The irony made my stomach turn. Thursday came, and Mom suddenly had errands to run. I wasn't fooled. I'd spotted her silver sedan trailing 3 cars behind me on Main Street. At Brevity Coffee, I picked a table by the front window, a clear view across the street where I knew she'd be parked. Kramer arrived 5 minutes late, looking worn out. He sat across from me, coffee in hand, his fingers trembling slightly. Your mother called me 6 times yesterday, he said, voice low. She's not persistent. She's a predator, just like you. His face hardened. I'm trying to help, both of you. By texting me privately? By suggesting off-the-record meetings? How long before you cross the line with me like you're about to do with her? He reached out, placing his hand over mine. He probably thought it was comforting. I let it stay, knowing she was watching. His thumb traced soft circles over my skin. You're in pain. I can help you heal. My phone buzzed. Alicia. Your mom just called. She says you're seducing her therapist. What is going on? I pulled my hand away, showed him the message. His face went pale. She's already spinning the story, I said. You should know. She's watching us right now. I gestured with my chin. Silver sedan, across the street. He turned, just in time to see the car peel away from the curb, too fast. She knew she'd been caught. When I got home, there was an audience waiting. Mom had gathered her book club, 2 of our nosiest neighbors, and my Aunt Celeste. They were seated like a tribunal in our living room, Mom at the center, draped in my favorite dress, playing the role of concerned parent with Oscar-level sincerity. There she is, Mom announced as I walked in. Sweetheart, your loved ones are here because they care. Celeste spoke first. Your mother told us about your concerning behavior, this fixation on older men, the secrecy, the strange meetings. We think you might benefit
For inpatient treatment. For what? I asked, still standing, refusing to sit. Sex addiction, Mom said softly, tears already welling up in her eyes. It's not your fault. These things can be genetic. But seducing my therapist, her voice trembled, that crosses a line. The room went still. Every face turned toward me, some concerned, some doubtful, all deeply uncomfortable. Interesting, I said, finally. Should we talk about Jake? He was 15 when you made out with him in our kitchen. Or Evan? His car was in our driveway while I was at practice. Or Adrian? You wore my perfume when you slept with him. The silence deepened, fractured only by the sound of someone shifting awkwardly on the couch. For a moment, Mom's mask cracked, rage flashing in her eyes before she shoved the tears back into place. These delusions, this is exactly why you need help, she began. But then someone else stood. Mrs. Landry, Evan's mother. Her voice cut through the tension. Wait. Everyone turned to her. Evan told me something happened with an older woman. He wouldn't say who, but... She looked at Mom, her eyes narrowing in sudden recognition. It was you, wasn't it? Mom stood up abruptly, fury returning to her face like a storm surge. I won't sit here and be accused by conspiracy theorists. My daughter is sick, and all of you are enabling her delusions. She stormed out of the room, but the damage had already been done. The intervention fell apart in a chorus of uncomfortable murmurs and sideways glances. One by one, the guests slipped out, avoiding my eyes, but avoiding Mom's even more. That evening, my phone buzzed. Kramer. Your mother canceled all sessions. We need to talk. My apartment, tomorrow. 1247 Oak Street, apartment 3B. I drove there the next afternoon. Her laugh floated down from an open third-floor window before I even stepped inside. I climbed the stairs quietly. The door to 3B was ajar. Through the crack, I could hear her voice, low and syrupy. She's always been jealous of me. Even as a child, she competed for male attention. Her father, her teachers, anyone. That must be difficult, he replied, his usual clinical distance noticeably absent. You understand me, she purred. I try so hard. I give up so much, and no one sees it. I positioned my phone carefully, camera angled toward the door crack. She had taken off her jacket. Underneath was a blouse I recognized, mine. She was seated too close to Kramer on his couch, her hand resting casually on his knee. "Your daughter seems to think there's something inappropriate happening between us," he said, but even that sounded more like an invitation than a denial. "She wants everything I have," she murmured. "My clothes, my perfume, even my therapist. You see through her, don't you?" she added, leaning in. His resolve faltered. She placed her hand on his chest. Her voice dropped, too low to catch clearly. He placed his hand on hers. "Maybe we should explore this connection," he said, "all in the name of understanding your family dynamics." Her blouse was already slipping off one shoulder when I took a step back and knocked over a potted plant in the hallway. It crashed against the floor. Footsteps pounded toward the door. I bolted, down the stairwell, skipping every other step. Behind me, I heard Kramer call out, his voice sharp, alarmed. I didn't stop, not until I was in my car, engine rumbling beneath shaking hands. I had one last card left to play. For 3 years, I'd occasionally searched for my dad online. His LinkedIn listed him at Braxton Manufacturing, across town. I'd never had the courage to contact him, until now. At the front desk, the security guard refused to let me past without an appointment. I grabbed a piece of visitor's center stationery and scribbled a message. "She's doing it again. Check Dr. Kramer's license. It's already suspended. Your daughter needs help." I was headed back to my car when someone called out behind me. "Excuse me." I turned. A woman in her early 30s, elegant, poised, and vaguely familiar. Ashley, Dad's wife. I recognized her from late-night social media searches. "I know who you are," she said gently. "Your mom tags you sometimes." My throat closed. I just needed to—" "He's been wanting to reach out," Ashley interrupted. "But the lawyers advised him to wait until you turned 18. Then your mom made her accounts private, and we lost you." She guided me past security with a short explanation. The elevator ride to the 5th floor felt endless. Ashley knocked on an office door labeled Gavin Reyes, Senior Analyst. He looked older, grayer hair at his temples, deeper lines around his eyes. But those eyes, the same shade of green as mine. They filled with tears the moment he saw me. "Oh, God, is it true? The note?" I nodded, unable to speak. He crossed the room in 3 quick strides and pulled me into a hug that felt like solid ground for the first time in years. "I hired a private investigator. I know about—" "Micah, Damon, Adrian. I know what she did to them," Dad said, voice heavy. "I've been building a case, but you were already 18 by the time I had enough to act." Ashley quietly closed the office door, standing guard to give us privacy. "The PI found something else," Dad added, pulling back to look at me. "Kramer lost his license 2 years ago. Inappropriate conduct with a client. Your mom's been seeing an unlicensed therapist, paying him under the table to keep it quiet." The pieces locked together. That's why he was so willing to push boundaries. He had nothing left to lose, except his freedom. "Practicing without a license is a crime," Dad said, his expression hard. "And if he's done this before—" He pulled out a file, thick with documentation. The private investigator had compiled records on 3 other women, all single mothers, all referred to Kramer by mom, all with eerily similar stories, lines crossed, boundaries violated. "None of them pressed charges," Dad said, "but we need more, something concrete that ties them together, him and your mom." My phone buzzed. A message from Mom. A photo, her and Kramer in bed. She was smiling, triumphant. "Now you know how it feels to have something stolen." I showed it to Dad. His jaw tightened. She has no idea what she just admitted to. We spent the next 2 hours with his lawyer, building a strategy. Damon's mother had already contacted Dad's PI, offering to share her son's messages as evidence. Micah's parents were considering doing the same. That night, I packed a bag and moved in with Dad and Ashley. I made it out while Mom was still at Kramer's apartment. Ashley told me the guest room had been waiting for me since the day I turned 18. The next morning, Mom realized I was gone. She called 17 times. I blocked her. Then she switched to social media, posting about her healing journey with a wonderful man who understands real trauma. She even tagged Kramer's old practice page, unaware it had been deactivated for years. The comments lit up. One stood out. Petra Kramer. That's why I divorced him. Check court records. More women began sharing their own stories. Within hours, 3 others had replied with eerily familiar details. Dad's PI contacted every one of them, building a network. I met one of them, Lena, at a diner downtown. She clutched a manila folder with trembling hands. Her story came out in pieces between sips of lukewarm coffee. Kramer had been her therapist during a difficult custody battle. The sessions became sexual within weeks. When she tried to report him, he threatened to use the recordings of their sessions in court. "But I kept everything," Lena said, sliding the folder across the table. Inside, bank statements showing Mom had referred her, screenshots of texts about cash payments, even a voice memo of Kramer admitting he wasn't licensed anymore. The final piece came directly from Mom. She left her car, drunkenly abandoned in Dad's driveway during one of her chaotic late-night attempts to confront me. Inside, police found a box, a collection of recorded therapy sessions, Kramer with various clients. Turns out Mom had been taping everything, likely as insurance, blackmail if needed. But the tapes revealed something entirely different. Laughter, mockery, strategizing. In one recording, Mom and Kramer laughed about their pathetic clients, named names, described in detail how to manipulate each woman. In another, Mom coached him, told him exactly what to say to make women fall for him. The prosecutor played one clip for me. Mom's voice rang clear and cold. "My daughter, she's even easier than her boyfriends were. So desperate for love, she'll believe anything. Just like all of them." The trial was swift. Mom tried one last performance, said Kramer manipulated her, that she had been the victim. But the recordings buried her. I testified about Micah, about Damon, about Adrian. The jury's expressions hardened with every detail. Kramer got 5 years, lifetime registration as a sex offender. Mom got 18 months. Conspiracy, fraud, contributing to the delinquency of minors. At sentencing, she turned and looked straight at me. "You're just like me now," she said, voice sharp but calm. "You destroyed someone for revenge. How does it feel?" And it hurt, because there was a sliver of truth in it. I had orchestrated her fall, deliberately, just as she had orchestrated years of mine. But when I looked at Lena, at the other women in the courtroom, women who finally had a voice, who finally had justice, I knew the difference. Her revenge served only herself. Mine set others free. Dad and Ashley took me in for good. Their home became mine. I started real therapy with a licensed professional, someone trained in trauma recovery. Mom's letters from prison began arriving a few weeks later. I didn't open them. Each envelope went straight into a box, unopened. I wasn't ready to hear what she had to say. Not yet.
Any manipulation she might still try from behind bars. 3 years later, I was working as a victim advocate when the call came in. A teenage girl, voice shaking, describing how her mother had started behaving strangely around her boyfriends. She'd found inappropriate messages. No one believed her, because her mother was beautiful, charming, the kind of woman people don't suspect. I wrote down everything she said, careful and steady, remembering what my own voice had sounded like at that age. Raw, desperate, hopeful that someone would finally listen. The cycle was trying to start again, but this time, someone understood. Someone who knew that mothers could be predators too. That beauty could be the perfect mask for cruelty. "I believe you," I told her. The words I'd needed for so long. "And I'm going to help you." Her intake form sat in front of me, her handwriting shaky. 16 years old, the same age I'd been when Damon happened. Her mother? A mirror of mine. Polished, adored by the PTA, everyone's favorite hostess. The girl's voice cracked as she described the text she'd found between her mom and her ex. "She says I'm making it up, that I'm jealous of her looks," she whispered. I scheduled an emergency meeting with the school counselor. Then I called Dad's lawyer. We'd built a protocol for cases like this. Document everything, loop in mandatory reporters, create paper trails no one could ignore. Not like they had with me. That same evening, a notification arrived. Mom's first parole hearing. 18 months had passed, faster than I'd expected. The victim impact statement form sat untouched on my desk for 3 days before I could face it. Kramer had been transferred to another facility after some kind of incident with another inmate. His ex-wife sent occasional updates. He'd lost his appeal, denied early release. The other women had formed a support group. They met monthly at a community center downtown. I went to one meeting, sat in the back, while Lena led the discussion. 7 women. All had been referred by Mom to Kramer over the years. They talked about healing, setting boundaries, recognizing manipulation. When they asked if I wanted to share, I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Meanwhile, the teenage girl's case escalated. Her school counselor filed a CPS report after reviewing the messages. Unlike in my case, the authorities took it seriously. Training had improved, policy had evolved. The girl's mother was ordered to cease all contact with her daughter's peers pending investigation. 2 weeks before the hearing, a letter arrived. From Mom. Through her lawyer. I recognized the handwriting instantly. That same swirling, loopy script that once signed my permission slips and forged Dad's name on their divorce papers. Ashley found me standing at the kitchen counter, just staring at the envelope. "You don't have to read it. Or you can read it with someone. Your choice." I opened it alone in my room that night. The language was precise, measured, probably reviewed by her prison counselor. She wrote about reflection, accountability, wanting to rebuild our relationship. But between the lines, I saw the same patterns. Subtle deflections, minimizing, quiet blame shifting. She was still painting herself as a victim of circumstance. The hearing was on a Tuesday morning. Mom took off work and drove me there. In the parking lot, I spotted Damon's mom heading inside. She had submitted her own impact statement about what it had done to her son. Inside, Mom wore a faded set of prison blues, not one of her perfectly curated outfits. Her hair showed gray roots. Her face was bare. She looked smaller somehow, older. When she saw me, her eyes welled with tears that might have been real. The board asked about her rehabilitation progress. She talked about therapy groups, accountability work, understanding the hurt she had caused. Her voice broke when she mentioned missing my college graduation, as if that was the deepest wound in the room. When it was my turn to speak, I stood on shaking legs. I had prepared a statement about second chances, about healing. But what came out was something different. I spoke about the girl who had called our office, about the 7 women in Lena's group, about how the cycle of abuse was already trying to continue. "She's not ready," I said finally. "She's learned the language of remorse, but not the truth of it. She hasn't changed. She'll find new victims,
New ways to manipulate. I saw it then. Just for a second. Her mask slipping. That flash of rage. The one I'd known my whole life. Then the tears returned. The board members had seen it too.
The board took notes, faces unreadable. Damon's mother was the next to speak. Her voice calm but weighted as she described her son's lifelong struggle with trust, the therapy bills, the relationships he'd sabotaged, unable to believe that anyone could ever want him for who he was. Micah's mother had sent in a written statement. She wrote about her son's anxiety, how he flinched around older women, how he dropped out of college after a professor reminded him too much of my mother. Parole was denied. Mom would serve the rest of her sentence. She'd be eligible for review again in 6 months. As the guards led her out, she looked at me once. No words. Just a look. A look that promised it wasn't over. Outside, Damon's mother gave me a brief hug. "You did the right thing," she said. "He wanted to be here, but his therapist thought it was best he didn't. He's doing better, though. He's even dating someone his own age." 2 months later, the teenage girl's case was resolved. Her mother took a plea: probation, mandatory therapy, and no contact with minors outside the family. Not perfect, but still more than I'd ever been given. The girl started attending our support group, the youngest member, but not the only teen anymore. Kramer was attacked again in prison, this time badly enough to land him in protective custody. His ex-wife stopped sending updates after that. Lena's group grew, from 12 members to 15. We moved to a larger space at the community center. Dad and Ashley announced they were expecting. The news hit harder than I'd expected. A tangle of joy and resentment. Grief for the family they'd get to have, one untouched by Mom's poison. Therapy helped me untangle what I felt, helped me understand that love and envy could live side by side. Ashley asked me to help decorate the nursery. A small gesture, but it meant more than she probably realized. 6 months later, the teenage girl graduated from our program. Her mother had violated probation by showing up at a school dance, claiming she just wanted to see her in the dress. Back to court, extended probation, stricter restrictions. The girl moved in with her father, started therapy, started to heal. Mom's second parole hearing approached this time. I didn't go. Damon gave a statement via video call. His voice was stronger than his mother had described. Micah's statement came through his lawyer. Adrian never spoke, but his silence said enough. Parole denied again. Mom had been caught with a contraband phone, using it to contact Kramer through a number smuggled into the prison. They were planning something. The details are still sealed in her disciplinary file. I started dating Noah, a social worker from the community center. He knew my history, had even studied the case in his training materials. Our first dates were quiet, careful, both of us carrying scars. He'd grown up with an alcoholic father. Family dysfunction lived in his bones. He understood. The night before Mom's release date arrived, I couldn't sleep. 3 years had passed since her conviction. Kramer still had 2 to go, but Mom would be free in 12 hours. Dad changed the locks, installed new cameras, updated the restraining order. She didn't show. 2 weeks later, a process server did. Mom was suing for defamation, emotional distress, and destruction of property. Apparently, the recordings I'd turned over to police were hers, property she claimed I'd stolen. Her new lawyer was young, hungry, probably working for a cut of whatever she thought she could wring from us. Dad's attorney laughed when he read the claim. "She's got no case. This is just harassment by litigation. We'll countersue." The legal mess dragged on for months. Mom got a job at a salon 40 miles away, telling coworkers she'd been wrongfully imprisoned by a vindictive daughter. Someone always believed her, at least for a little while.
She cycled through 3 jobs in 6 months. The truth always caught up eventually. Noah proposed on a quiet Sunday morning. No dramatic gestures, just the two of us, barefoot in the kitchen. I said yes, knowing full well that love would always take work, that it would be an act of constant awareness, a daily defiance of the patterns I had inherited. Mom showed up at our engagement party. Security removed her before she could cause a scene, but not before she pressed a letter into my hand. I threw it away unread. Some cycles had to end in silence. The teenage girl from that first phone call? She became a peer counselor, helping other teens recognize red flags, the danger behind smiles, the warning signs hiding behind familiar faces. She spoke at schools, community centers, anywhere people would listen. Her mother found new victims, but now people knew how to see it. 8 months before his release date, Kramer died in prison. A heart attack. The official report said.
His ex-wife was the one who called to tell me. Her voice was flat, emotionless. Just so you know, he's gone. Mom posted about it on Facebook, of course, grieving the loss of a great healer who understood true pain. But the comments beneath told a different story. A thread of women who now knew what predators looked like. At my wedding, Dad walked me down the aisle. Ashley stood nearby, holding their toddler daughter. Mom's absence wasn't empty. It was palpable. A space she could have filled, instead occupied by people who had actually protected me. Damon sent a card. Micah's mother attended. Adrian never appeared, but his mom hugged me at the reception. I kept working at the advocacy center. Every case reminded me Mom wasn't an outlier. She was a pattern. One I'd seen echoed again and again. Charismatic mothers, unsuspecting teens, systems that sometimes failed, but now, more often, caught it in time. Now, more often, someone listened. Mom started a blog about her wrongful conviction, gathering a modest following of other alienated mothers. Dad's investigator tracked it. Every post, every escalation, every veiled threat. She posted old photos, rewrote history with herself as the martyr. I stopped checking, especially after she posted a prom photo of me and Adrian, cropped him out, changed the caption. 3 years after her release, Mom was arrested again. A 19-year-old boy, her friend's son. Same tactics, same script. But this time, he had recorded everything. She had learned nothing, changed nothing. The cycle she had accused me of continuing was always hers. This time, I didn't feel satisfaction or vindication, just weariness, a tired recognition of who she really was. Some people choose their patterns, even over freedom. I was pregnant when the verdict came in. 5 years, no parole. Nathan held my hand as we watched the local news coverage. Brief, factual. Just another predator brought to justice. Mom's looks had faded, her charm dulled. No one mentioned me. The report focused on the young man who'd spoken out, the victim. 2 weeks later, our daughter was born. Early but healthy, perfect and screaming. I held her close and thought about cycles, inheritance, and the power of choosing something else. Mom would never meet her, never twist her the way she twisted me. The advocacy center expanded, satellite offices in 3 counties. I trained new counselors, teaching them the signs everyone had missed in me. The teenage girl from that first phone call, she graduated college, became a lawyer, family law naturally.
Sent photos sometimes. Updates. Proof. Some nights I still dreamed of Mom. Not nightmares, just memories, tainted with that quiet grief for what never was. In the dreams, she was always beautiful, always smiling, always choosing her hunger over my heart. But I always woke to Nathan's coffee, to my daughter's laughter, to the life I'd built from the ruins she left behind. It wasn't perfect. I still checked the locks twice, still flinched at some shadows. The last time I saw Mom was on grainy security footage. She was at a grocery store near her halfway house. Old, unremarkable, just another woman buying milk. No one looked at her. She needed an audience to have power, and now she had none. I deleted the footage, closed that chapter. My daughter was learning to walk, stumbling from couch to table with that same stubbornness I'd once carried in my bones. She would grow up knowing boundaries, understanding consent, spotting manipulation before it had a chance to root. The cycle hadn't just broken, it had ended. Not with vengeance, not with drama, but with small, daily decisions, choosing differently, choosing better, choosing truth. Mom would serve her time, might find new victims, would surely keep blaming everyone but herself. But her reach was limited now, her name just a warning, not a threat. I signed adoption papers for Ashley's second child, became a sister legally to someone I already loved like one. Dad cried at the ceremony, said he'd finally given me the family he always wanted me to have. Mom became a story we rarely told, a cautionary tale, a scar, but not a defining one. The work continued. New calls, new cases, new girls trying to escape someone who should have protected them. But also, new victories, new advocates, new voices, loud ones, rising where silence used to be. Each win proved what I already knew, that patterns could be broken, that daughters didn't have to become their mothers, that beauty without integrity was nothing but a cage. My daughter took her first steps on a Tuesday afternoon. She reached for me, with absolute trust, and I caught her.
I held her close and made a silent promise to be the kind of mother I had needed. Not flawless, but present. Not devouring, but nurturing. The cycle ended not with punishment, but with choice. And I chose her, chose us, chose the life my mother tried to steal, but couldn't. Because in the end, that's what broke the pattern. Not revenge, not even justice, and certainly not understanding. It was the quiet, relentless act of choosing differently. Choosing love over hunger, safety over control, care over cruelty. The cycle my mother began ended the only way it ever could, with someone refusing to carry it forward, with someone finally saying no and meaning it, and building something better from the ashes.